Good morning. We're ready to begin, and I wanted to just introduce myself. My name is Cleel Rose, and I'm honored to be here with the family and friends, the new rabbi at Eitz Chaim congregation. I'm going to make a special request. If everyone could kindly turn off their cell phones or put it onto silent mode, that would be appreciated. When a special person passes in our lives, there are a variety of emotions that come and a variety of responses. One of the responses that happens for me and perhaps for others is that I can't seem to find the words to say what I'm feeling. And so I look often to the Psalms or to the Torah. And in particular, there's a song that comes to mind, a verse from the book of Psalms. Esa einai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri. Look up to the mountains, and from where will my help come? My help comes from God. And so if you know the melody or you don't know the melody, just I'm going to politely ask that you fake it, but just sing with me. Me'ayin me'ayin yavo hezri. Esainai eleharim me'ayin me'ayin yavo hezri me'imasher ose shamayim ba'aretz hezri me'imasher ose shamayim ba'aretz lai 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 We're taught מבית ומחוץ תצפנו. אמר רבא כל תלמיד חכם שאין תוכו קברו אינו תלמיד חכם. The Torah calls our attention to the fact that the Aron HaKodesh, which held the Ten Commandments in the wilderness, was to be covered with gold, outside and inside. And we could readily understand why the outside should be covered with gold. Decoration should be seen. I think Gertie would have appreciated that. But what need, however, was there for gold on the inside? The commentators answer that the inside should be identical to the outside, tochok faro. And such is the case with goodness. Its open expression must be matched by an inner conviction. So we're here to pay tribute to a wonderful person, Gertie Diamond Lev, Gittel Bat Zevel Vashena Feya. The timing of one's death is, I believe, arbitrary. And yet, in some cases, all of the logic we possess in this world of ours seems to escape when you pay closer attention to the way in which some folks leave this world. When Miriam the prophetess died, the Torah tells us that the supply of water stopped, and people realized that a righteous person does a tremendous amount for his or her generation. They realize that they were hanging on in this world by a very tenuous string. We need tremendous mercy, tremendous support, I'll say from heaven, and a great deal of miracles. It is the righteous of each generation that deserve all of the above. And in this liminal place, we are standing in pain by Gertie's loss and intensely grateful for this individual who created an imprint of love on our hearts. We stand here holding on to the legacy and virtues of another great woman like Miriam, holding on to Gertie. Gertie was preceded in death by her parents, Sam and Sophie, sisters Rose, Belle, Sally, and brother Bill, as well as her husbands Jack Diamond and Morris Lev, and son Laurie Diamond. We offer our sincere condolences to her daughter Sharna, husband Maury, to her grandchildren, to Stacy and Kyle, to BJ, to Laura and Les, to Jeff and Leslie, to Lisa and Rob, and I've been asked to mention that there are 11 great grandchildren. Don't have all of their names, but some of them are here. And her niece Roz Hecht, and many other members of the family. Gertie was born here in Winnipeg on August 28th, 1921, and left this world on October 4th, the 25th of Tishrei. This time I'd like to call on her daughter to say a few words about her mom.
Taller than my mom was, just a bit. First of all, I want to thank all of you for being here with us today. Um, I've been grieving the loss of my mom for several years already, ever since she no longer recognized me in person or my voice on the telephone. I've tried to no avail using familiar greetings that we used to exchange, like, "Hi, Mom, what's doing?" or "Have I told you lately that I love you?" or singing her very favorite, "You Are My Sunshine." I left Winnipeg at 21 to begin my life with my husband Maury in Wisconsin, and I relied on visits home to visit family and friends, attend special family events, some happy and some sad. When Mom moved to Estevan, my visits took me there, and we would come to Winnipeg together to reunite with family. The time that Mom and I spent together could be quiet and routine, or filled with fun and adventure, or just opportunities to discuss mutual difficulties or concerns that we had for each other. In Estevan, Mom enjoyed showing me everything the city had to offer, which was quite a feat, sharing about the many activities that she participated in, and introducing me to her friends, her neighbors, and the locals that would greet her as we passed by walking down the street, all of whom would express their admiration for her community service, and always about her appearance, dressed to the nines and wearing her 4-inch high heels. I will always treasure our mother-daughter trips, the first one being to the Edmonton Mall, where I kept us from getting lost, which is quite amazing because I have no sense of direction. Then we went to Europe to celebrate her Volunteer of the Year award that she received, and invited me to join her. The award was for anywhere Air Canada flew, and I said, "Well, where are you going to go, Mom?" And she said, "I'm going as far into Europe as I can." And I said, "Well, have a wonderful time." And she said, "No, you're coming with me." And I said, "Mom, I can't afford to go to Europe for 3 weeks. I mean, that's just," she says, "No, I'm spending your inheritance." And I said, "Oh, okay." And then we took a trip, her 75th birthday. She came to California where we were living at the time. And we explored the California coastline and stayed at bed and breakfasts. And she was just amazed about having beautiful breakfast served in our bed and breakfast room. And then we went to Lake Tahoe and walked all the casinos and saw a lot of shows. And the whole time we were walking around all these areas, even in Europe, she was wearing her 4-inch high heels. And she almost fell off the gondola in Venice. Yeah. And she also sang O Solo Mio while we were on a gondola ride at night through the neighborhoods of Venice. And the gondolier had to ask her to please be quiet because these are neighborhoods that people live here. But, you know, and she sang sing alongs on our tour bus all the time. Um, Mom survived many hardships in her life with strength and grace. First, a very young divorce, and 2 marriages that each ended far too soon in the sudden deaths of the loves of her life. And yet she carried on, and she stayed in Estevan and continued her social and community activities for many more years. About 10 years ago, during my visits, I began to notice changes in her abilities, both physical and mental, and which her friends and neighbors began reporting to me more frequently and were very worried about her. It gradually became necessary for Mom to have in home care assistance and ultimately needing to be moved back to Winnipeg for supervised care and to be closer to her Winnipeg family, since I was unable to obtain permission to move her to where I live in Arizona. It was a very difficult and heartbreaking experience for the whole family. Shortly after her move back to Winnipeg, we celebrated her 90th birthday, which many of you attended, and which she appeared to enjoy, but soon lost any memory of the event. Her decline since then has been gradual but profound, and my wish is that you all have your own favorite memories about my mom, which I invite you to share either here today or take within your hearts. I would like to add that just yesterday or the day before, I found out that the city of Estevan will be naming a new park pathway in Mom's name to honor her many years of community service there. This has been an ongoing thing since before Mom left Estevan because they wanted to do it sooner than later, but it just didn't happen and didn't happen. And I regret that she wasn't, that she's not going to know about that, but it's happening, Mom. A very special thank you to Mom's dedicated companions, Rosalina Hernandez and Josie Trinidad. The care that you provided to my mom was invaluable. I mean, it was just amazing. And I think it helped her live the long life that she did to 97. And anyone else here that has crossed paths with my mom, had a relationship with my mom, you all know who she was. And we're all going to miss her very, very much. Thank you.
So Sharna and the family have made a special request. If there's anyone here who'd like to come forward and say something about Gertie, by all means, you are welcome to do so. The only thing I would encourage you to think about is that in our tradition, we tend to highlight the best of the person, and we try to keep it brief, and that's considered to be a sign of respect. And there'll be other opportunities for people to share their stories about Gertie at the meal of consolation and when the family gets together for Shiva.
Hi, my name is Ricky Siegel, and I would like to tell you a little about Gertie. I met Gertie in 1995 because I found myself in Estevan at the St. Joseph Treatment Center for drugs and alcohol abuse, something that I have been fighting for many, many years. At the treatment center, there was a Reverend David Holmes who asked me if he could give my name to Gertie Lev, who is Jewish, as I was, and she could come and see me. I said, certainly. So in one evening walks this beautiful Jewish lady with her hair done, matching shoes and purse, lipstick coordinated with her rouge, hair perfectly done, and comes up to me and introduces herself and then says, how could you have taken drugs while you were pregnant? Well, I was dumbfounded by that remark, and before I knew it, Gertie threw her arms around me and I cried. That was the beginning of a wonderful relationship. I was in the treatment center for 30 days. It was a locked facility, and I could get out to see Gertie or anyone else only for a couple of hours on Sunday. I really, really relished the time that we spent together. She would make me these wonderful apple balinces, and we'd eat in her gazebo. And she, at times, would sing to me. After I left the treatment center, Gertie and I kept in touch. I left my husband and I moved to Toronto. And when I was feeling lonely, I would call Gertie up and say, Gertie, sing to me. And there she would, long distance, sing, You Are My Sunshine. Her death has brought a light that is no longer shining in the world. She was a person who gave and did for others before she would do for herself.
If there's anybody else who'd like to come forward. So I'm going to say something, and it's not just because I'm a nice guy. Your silence, and this teaching is really rooted in Judaism. Your silence is just as valuable as anything you could articulate in words out loud. There is a place for silence, especially when we're mourning someone of significance. So I learned a lot about Gertie. In fact, all of this information here, she provided. And she abbreviated it. Um, Quite a remarkable person. I learned that I can't even do justice to the name of her favorite perfume, but Gina Tay, yes. Learned that she dressed beautifully and always matched, as you've heard a few times. She was organized, artistic, creative. I'm getting the sense she was highly opinionated, or maybe just a little bit. Apparently, I'm told she had great legs. Yes. And really funny. There's a joke, and I will certainly not do justice to it, about a fan. And if I say it in Yiddish, it will come out sounding highly inappropriate. Yes. So you'll have to ask her that joke later. But I also, what I gleaned about this person, and I've referred to her as a righteous person, we somehow have this notion in our heads that righteous means X, Y, and Z. Righteous people can be also be very opinionated, right? They have strong feelings. I'm related to a few righteous people. But Gertie was a survivor, and I don't mean a survivor that she lived, she survived a war. She survived something that our society at the time really frowned upon. Being a single mom was not socially acceptable, and she didn't really give two thoughts to what others had to say about that. She lived her life in the fashion that she chose to live it. That's impressive. That's a model. So I could go through the long list of things that she did in Estevan. I think I'm going to pass on some of that, but it's. I hope you'll ask Sharna later to hear more about these details. It's just incredible. I'm just looking briefly, and she was a woman of influence in Estevan. She was cited by the city. You've now heard that there's going to be a pathway named in her honor. This was a person who embraced the idea of living life with meaning. So I offer an ancient teaching, which I think is a beautiful legend, that God sent a ministering angel to earth to bring back to God three things which were most dearly or nearly divine: objects worth of a place in heaven. And when the angel came to earth, she entered a garden. She saw there a rose in bloom, and thinking it to be divinely beautiful, she plucked the rose. She next passed a house where, looking into the window, she saw an infant sleeping in a crib. She was struck by the infant's placid, peaceful smile and thought it worthy of a place in heaven. She then flew back over the earth, wondering what the third thing would be. And suddenly she saw a mother and a grandmother and a friend devotedly going about her work, and she took the mother's love to heaven. The legend describes how shortly afterwards the rose withered, losing its beauty. The child awakened from his sleep and no longer peaceful and placid, began to cry. The only thing that remained in heaven as it was on earth was the love of the mother. So Gertie was a true Am B'Yisrael, the Jewish mother in the best sense, and not in that silly, stereotypical Hollywood fashion. There was nothing placid about her, and she was a woman who made being a mother and a grandmother a primary part of her life, but that wasn't the only part of her life. But she was attentive and compassionate. Leo Buscaglia writes that we find comfort in knowing that our lives have been enriched by having shared the love of someone who loves unconditionally. Tehei nishmata tura b'torah chaim. May Gertie's soul breathe and her breath be bound up in the bond of eternal life. I have a few announcements on behalf of the family that I'd like to share. In lieu of flowers, donations could be made to any charity of your choosing. Immediately after the interment, the mourners will return to the Simkin Center for a Sudat Havra'ah, or meal of consolation. Shiva will take place at Laura and Les Garber's home, located at 69 Devonport Boulevard. today from 7 to 9, and Tuesday from 2 to 4, and then also on Tuesday from 7 to 9. I'm going to ask everyone to please rise as I recite the El Malay Rachamim. El Malay Rachamim Ashochein Bamromim Hamtzehem Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Shechina B'malot Kedoshim Utorim Kezorakia Mazhirim Et Nishmat Gita Batzevo V'Shina Feya Shalcha Leolama B'Gan Eden Zehi Menuchata Ana Balerachamim Hastireha B'Setek Nafecha Leolamim Utzor B'Tzor Chaim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachlata V'Tanuach B'Shalom HaMishkava V'Nomar Amen. El Malay Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Gertie who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace, and may her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say Amen. At this point, I'm going to ask Jeff and a few others to come forward. They have something special they'd like to sing as a tribute to Gertie.
So I'm just going to got a few words I want to say and we'll sing. But Baba Gertie was our cool Baba. She was a bright red light with matching lipstick, handbag, and suitcase, stepping off the bus from Estevan, having completely charmed the driver along the way. She danced around her McCormick Avenue kitchen in Estevan in high-heeled slippers, singing as she put exactly 6 blueberries on her cereal. She made her own world, from the still life in the living room to the massive macrame closet door, to the Jewish pavilion at the Estevan Folklorama, to the painted cultivator shoes, wagon wheels, and old creamer in the garden. It was always an adventure for my 12-year-old or so self to travel past the Boissevain turtle on the bus and to arrive in Estevan, home of the Lignite Louis coal miner mascot and Baba and Zeta Morris. Baba had a voice like a bird, full of trills and decoration, like the world she created around her. She sang with the Sweet Adelines a cappella group, and she sang to the residents of the care home where she volunteered, crowning a king and queen of hearts every year. And she would push us on the swing at the Matheson Avenue playground, singing, I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck. In the last few years, music was one of the things that could get her attention and make a connection through the fog. We are grateful to Cindy Bass, her music therapist, for helping to bring her some of those moments. Baba was the kind of lady that you would expect to have a catchy theme song. And she did. That song is You Are My Sunshine, and many of us have heard her sing it or have sung it to her over the years. So we'd like to sing it again now, together with some of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Please join us in song. sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, as I lay sleeping, I dreamt I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was mistaken. So I hung my head and I cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. In all my dreams, dear, you seem to lead me. When I awake, my poor heart pains. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away.
This time I'd like to ask everyone to please rise. We'll ask the pallbearers to come forward and take their position near the casket. As folks know, the custom here is for the family and then others to follow the casket as it makes its way outside. And I'd like to request that as we make our way to the Hebrew 6 Cemetery, please keep your hazard lights on and please obey the traffic rules. Do not go through any red lights for your own protection and for others. Thank you so much.